Hello all out there in YouTube, and welcome back to my channel. I was intending to do a review for this week, but things got a little hectic, and it just became a very busy week, and a lot of things I had to deal with, which took up a lot of my time. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to do a proper review for you all this week, but I decided, what the hell, let's do a random horror recommendation. For those who are new to my channel, this is a show I like to do when I'm very, very busy, but I still want to get a video out to everybody. I just recommend a few movies that I've checked out over the last few months. Let's get started. Here are 3 movies that I have seen within the past few months that I think are worth checking out. So, welcome back everybody to Random Horror Movie Recommendations. There's no title sequence for this series. These past few months, I've seen some really interesting stuff, and I figured I've got enough built up here to do a few random horror recommendations, so if you would like to see more of these, maybe we'll do this every other month, or like every 2 months or something like that. But anyway, so the first movie we're going to talk about in this video is Vampire Circus. Now, Hammer horror movies have been a bit of a blind spot for me for a while. I have seen a fair amount of Hammer horror movies. I love the Dracula series. I love the Frankenstein series. The Hammer Frankenstein series is one of the reasons why Peter Cushing is one of my all-time favorite actors. And yeah, I have seen a fair amount of them, but I have wanted to dive into Hammer horror films more, and I've been checking out quite a few in these past few months, and I have seen some very good stuff. In the last horror recommendations I talked about Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, and this one, of course, Vampire Circus. These are both Hammer horror movies that came out in the 70s, and I've loved both of these movies. I will say I like Dr. and Jekyll and Sister Hyde more than Vampire Circus, but not by much. Vampire Circus is still a very, very good horror movie. So, the opening of this movie, it seems like it's going to be your typical vampire movie. You have this woman who has been seduced by a vampire lord, and a bunch of people come to try and save her. One thing leads to another, and the head vampire dies. Now, the way vampire movies usually are, especially old Gothic vampire movies, you expect him to come back and be the main villain of this movie, but that's not quite the case. The entire movie is about bringing this dead vampire lord back to life. Once we have this very well done opening, we then flash forward a few years, or many years, and the townsfolk are now dealing with this plague that has been infecting the whole town, and the doctor heads out of town to try and find help and try to find a way to stop this illness that's spreading throughout the town. And what I love about this whole idea is you have people from villages outside of this one preventing people from within this village of sick people from leaving the village. If you try to leave the village, there will be people who will shoot you dead because they don't want this infection to spread. As this is going on, a group of gypsies come to town and they have this circus, and they start performing for the population. They start brainwashing the local children, and we soon find out that this family of gypsies are a bunch of vampires. They're not only vampires, but they are vampires who are serving the head vampire that we saw at the beginning of the movie, and they're trying to bring him back to life. I enjoy a good circus-based horror movie and a good carnival-based horror movie. We don't have too many, but we do have some good ones out there. This is a solid carnival horror movie and a solid vampire movie, and it's a very different vampire movie than the other ones you see. Like I said at the beginning, usually we're following some head honcho vampire, and he's the one manipulating the town and killing people in the town and drinking the blood of the innocents. But in this movie, we're following all of his followers trying to bring him back from the dead. And this is a circus, so we have a lot of circus-themed vampires here. We have some acrobatic vampires. We have this little person vampire who is a lot of fun to watch, and he's a very intimidating character in this movie. We also have this one vampire who transforms into a panther, and I love that. Now, usually in vampire movies, there is shape-shifting involved, you know, like they turn into bats, and you have in some vampire lore, they will transform into werewolves. You see this in quite a few renditions of Dracula, where Dracula is able to turn into a werewolf to kill people. But in here, the vampire turns into a panther, and I love that contrast here. I love that unique take on vampire lore. And I love how the movie handles isolating this village, because so many times in horror movies, some evil force has come to the village, and a lot of people are asking, okay, why don't people just start leaving the village? Well, in this movie, the villagers can't leave because there's some kind of illness throughout the population, and if any of them try to leave, members of the outsiders from this village will kill them, so it's not easy for anybody to escape. Now, of course, this being a vampire movie, you know that the vampires are the cause of this plague. But I like the fact that you have two different threats. You have this plague, of course, which is caused by the vampires. You have the vampires themselves, and you have the people outside of the village killing people who try to escape the village. So it's like a danger within and a danger outside as well. So you don't really have anywhere to go. You have to pick which is the less bad threat. You have to pick which is the greater threat and go up against what could be considered the lesser threat. And of course, this being a Hammer horror movie, like I said, I haven't seen too many, but I have seen a fair amount. This being a Hammer horror movie, it has perfect gothic atmosphere. So good, it just gives you that wonderful gothic feeling that you want in a movie like this. And we don't just have one vampire we're dealing with. We're dealing with multiple different vampires, and the vampires each have their own unique abilities and their own unique talents, so it keeps everything fresh. Vampire Circus may not be my favorite 1970s vampire movie, but it is a very well-done vampire movie. It's a very unique vampire movie. It's a great one-shot. I love seeing a good one-shot, and Vampire Circus is a really good one-shot. Highly recommended if you like gothic horror movies, if you like vampire movies, if you're diving into Hammer horror movies like me. This is a good one to start with, I would say. So yeah, Vampire Circus, very well done Hammer vampire movie. It's good stuff. Yeah, check it out. Now we're going to flash forward from the 1970s to 2007, 2008, I think it's 2008, and we're going to look at a movie called End of the Line. I've heard about this movie a few times from a few people, and I've always wanted to check it out. I finally got the chance to see it in these past few months, and it's very, very good. You can tell that the people making this movie, it is an independent production, and while they had a decent budget, they didn't have a huge budget, so they had to work around a few things here and there. But yeah, End of the Line, very well done movie, very good independent horror movie, a very good cult movie. This is a movie about a cult. It kind of feels a little bit like Midnight Meat Train, to an extent, and that might be, if you've seen Midnight Meat Train, that might be a little spoiler of things to come. But I actually think this one's better than Midnight Meat Train, and I do like Midnight Meat Train, but I do think that this is a better underground train station, subway station based horror movie. The premise is you have these people on a subway train, and as the train is going through the tunnels, it stalls, and we soon find out that there's this cult of people who have stopped the train, and their leader has basically triggered them to go around killing people because they think that the apocalypse is at hand and they need to kill as many people as possible before the apocalypse comes. And they're murdering people to save their souls, as cults often do. So yeah, it is a very simple story, and unfortunately the poster for this movie kind of spoils where things go in the movie. And I wish the poster was different, but you still have a very, very good cult movie, an independent film with a decent budget, still working with what it has, because you can tell the budget isn't huge, but it is a decent budget, so they're able to do quite a bit with this movie. And yeah, that's pretty much all it is. It's people trying to escape this subway station while members of a cult are trying to kill them. I enjoy a good subway station horror movie. We have a few horror movies that take place in train stations, and I love train stations because they provide different settings for the movie. They're all in the same location, but you can change things up. You have scenes that can take place on the platform. You can have scenes that take place in the tunnels. You can have scenes that take place, outside of the tunnels in different rooms where maintenance people work. It's a good setting for horror movies. One of the things I liked about this movie is how everybody seems to know who this cult is. A lot of times in cult movies, it's a secret society. People don't really know much about them. They keep to themselves. You never see them in the real world. Everything is done underground, and people never find out about it until they're being attacked by the cult. But in this movie, the cult is well known. They do walk around amongst regular people. They're kind of like the Amish, or I'm not saying the Amish is a cult, but it's like they're like those communities that you see in regular life, but you can tell they're different, but they do walk amongst us like regular people, even though they have their beliefs that they keep secret and their rituals that they keep secret. But yeah, in this movie, the cult is secretive but not absent from society, and I appreciate that this movie did that. And the movie has a very good pace. It's between 90 and 95 minutes long. And there's something always happening in the movie. Not that there's always action in the movie. In fact, it takes until the third act for things to really amp up and to really see some bloodshed and a lot more action than we do in the first two acts. But the first two acts are not slow. There's always something going on. Not necessarily action, but always something interesting. A conversation between people. An interesting situation between people. I never like to compare slow pacing to fast pacing. I like to compare good pacing to bad pacing. And a movie can be slower paced, but still have a good pace, So, yeah, while the movie is not action-packed, it's still well-paced, giving you plenty of interesting stuff that keeps you intrigued throughout the film. And there are some solid, bloody moments here. It does get gory in the third act, and we do get some decent kills in the previous two acts, but when the kills start going, they're very well done, very good kills. And again, you can tell they had a smaller budget, but they did a very good job working with the budget they had. And most of the characters in this movie are very likable. Our core group of people who are trying to escape, we like most of them. There's one guy who kind of comes across as an asshole, but he does redeem himself in a way. We don't necessarily like him, but we don't necessarily hate him. We don't want anything bad to happen to him. But there are a lot of characters in this movie that we like that get killed off. I don't know if I would watch End of the Line again. I might. It has to sit with me a little longer, but it's definitely a movie that's worth seeing at least one time. It's a movie that I very much liked. Maybe the more it sits with me, the more I'll like it, but I can see people liking it more than I do. I do think it's a damn good movie that's worth checking out, but I would say check it out for yourself, and even though I liked it, you might like it even more than I do. So yes, End of the Line, well worth your time. Go see it. And for the final movie we're going to talk about in this episode of Random Horror Recommendations, we're going to be going back to 1970 with Mark of the Devil. I have been wanting to see this movie for so long, but for one reason or another, I haven't had a chance to watch it until these past few months. I have always heard about Mark of the Devil, and like I said, I've been wanting to see it for a long time. We all have those movies that are recommended to us so many times, but for one reason or another, we never get around to see them because we have a long list of recommendations. Being a fan of anything leads a lot of movies that fluctuate on the list because of how many recommendations you get from people. But yes, I've wanted to see this movie for so long, finally got a chance to watch it, and I loved it. It is such an effective, well-done horror movie. It's quite a good contrast from Vampire Circus. So we got a good balance here. We have Vampire Circus, where religion saves the day. You have End of the Line, where it's people in a cult interpreting religion in their own way and using it to do horrible things. And then you have Mark of the Devil, where religion is once again used for evil purposes. You know, people have used religion for negative things throughout history, and this is just a movie about that. The movie takes place in the 1700s, and you have this village with this horrible witchfinder general who has been torturing people and murdering people and just using religion to advance himself and advance his power. There are numerous complaints about it, and another more high-classed witchfinder general comes to the village, basically fires this guy, but it turns out that he is so much worse than the previous witchfinder, and we follow him torturing a lot of innocent people, again using religion to his advantage, taking advantage of people's faiths to get what he wants and to torture a lot of innocent people. And that's essentially what this movie is. The witchfinder has an apprentice who starts to question his faith and question this man and how he's doing things. And you're following all these people trying to tiptoe around this guy, because at any moment they could be accused of being a witch and they could end up getting tortured and killed. It's a disturbing movie, and it's a rough movie to watch, but it's so well done. Just so people know where I'm coming from in this whole thing, I think faith can be a good thing, but I think religion screws it up. I am perfectly fine with faith. I am against organized religion. Religion, like, faith is a belief in something. Religion tells you how you're supposed to believe it. People have used religion to control people and manipulate people, and I think that's wrong. And again, there's nothing wrong with having faith, but religion takes advantage of faith in many ways. You know, I have my own ideas about how things are, and I never tell anybody what they should believe or what they should not believe. I think you're allowed to believe or disbelieve whatever you want, as long as you're not hurting people. But the thing I don't like about religion is, again, people using religion. Religion has been used to manipulate people's faith and manipulate people, and that's where things get tricky, and that's why people have used religion so much throughout history to take advantage of people and to hurt other people. Look at the Salem witch trials. A lot of innocent people were killed in the name of religion. I've always thought that people have the right to believe or not believe whatever they want. But the minute you start pushing your beliefs or your lack of beliefs on other people, that's when you become an asshole. I've always tried to be a live and let live kind of guy, but the minute you start trying to push your viewpoints, whether you believe in something or you disbelieve in something, you start trying to push that on people, I don't like you. I'm sorry. If your whole purpose in life is to push your beliefs or your lack of beliefs on other people, I am not going to get along with you. I'm sorry. But that is what this movie is about. It's about people exploiting religion and exploiting people's beliefs to take advantage of other people and to take out people who you don't agree with, take out people you don't like, and that's just wrong. And that has happened a lot in history. It's essentially a movie about drawing the line in the sand, a group of people saying, we are right, everybody outside of this group is wrong, and when you're dealing in that situation, you are on very thin ice. The main antagonist of this movie is Lord Cumberland, and what makes him so scary is he has a position of power. I mean, Freddy, Jason, and Michael, they're scary enough on their own, but they don't have a position of power in some way. They don't rule over a group of people. So when you have a villain that has a position of power, it makes them so much more of a threat. This is a torture movie, and it's one of the most effective torture films, I think. It is in the same category as something like Hostel, but I think it's more disturbing than Hostel because it's about people exploiting faith to torture people. It's such a unsettling movie, but it's so well done. The acting is very good. This one really hit me, and it really stuck with me after watching it. So yeah, Mark of the Devil. I don't know if I can recommend it to everybody, but I do think it's worth a watch if you can sit through something that's rough. It's not the most disturbing movie I've ever seen, but it is a disturbing movie. It can be hard to sit through torture at times, so this is not a fun movie, but it is a good movie. I would definitely say that Vampire Circus and End of the Line are more on the fun side, fun in a way that a horror movie can be. They're fun because of the suspense and the scares that happen in them. Mark of the Devil is not a fun movie, but it is a movie that's worth watching if you're in the right frame of mind. So yes, Mark of the Devil, I would recommend that movie to those who can handle this kind of movie. And there you have it, this episode of Random Horror Movie Recommendations. Let me know if you would like me to do more of this. Like I said, I can do this every few months after I've watched a decent amount of films. Thank you for bearing with me this week. I do apologize for not having a proper video for you guys. We will hopefully get back on track next week. I got a few videos in mind, a few reviews in mind. We'll be getting more into the movie reviews. We'll do horror talks. We'll do trash reviews. We'll do Art of the Scares. These next few months are going to be actually pretty busy, but I will still try to get content out to you guys. But on that note, leave in the comments down below some movies you've checked out in the past few months that you think are worth checking out. Just anything that you've seen that you've liked that you think other people should see. And on that note, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for the continued support on this channel. And until next time, this is the Maniac here to remind you that the Grindhouse will never die.